November 18th, 2022, public hearing of the City of Prescott Preservation Commission. Members present at this meeting are Mary Ann Suttles. James McCarver is on Zoom, I believe. Richard Sprain, Michael Mirko, Mike King, and I am Robert Burford, the chair. Also present at today's meeting is Kat Moody, Historic Preservation Specialist, George Worley, the Planning Manager, Tammy DeWitt, our Community Planner, Kaylee Nunez, Recording Secretary, Councilman Eric Moore, pleased to have you today, and members of the public. This is an open public hearing and is being videotaped and tape recorded by the city. The proceedings are being televised by representatives of the public media, local cable and/or radio stations, and may also be rebroadcast at another time. The number of commission members present is 6, and it will require 4 for a majority vote of those present to pass a motion. All parties wishing to be heard will be expected to state their name and address for the record up here at the podium so that we may know who is speaking and can record your comments. Please turn off any cell phones, electronic devices, and mute yourself.
If you are on Zoom.
We need a comma there. And mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to minimize background noise. And with that, I will go to item 1, which is the approval of the previous meeting's minutes from October 14th, 2022. Does anyone have any comments, corrections, statements about the previous minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mike Mirko, and I will make the motion to approve those minutes.
Rick Sprain, second.
Thank you. This is Robert again. We have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries.
And Jim, your vote? Thumbs up.
Thumbs up, okay.
So we do.
6-0.
Apologize, Jim. We do have
Yes.
unanimous in favor. The next order of business is HP 22-013. It is 336 South Mount Vernon Avenue. It's in the Historic Preservation District number 13 of Southeast Prescott. There's a request for approval for a covered carport with a covered deck above the carport in the rear of the property. And with that, I'll turn this over to Ms. Moody for a description.
Thank you. This is, as indicated, this is an item on South Mount Vernon in the Joslyn Whipple National Register Historic District. This building is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. It is listed as a Victorian-style residence constructed sometime between 1910 and 1924. We know that range based on Sanborn maps that it was not on the 1910 map and it was on the 1924 map. Previous improvements to this property, and you're looking at the street view here on screen. There was some extensive improvements done to the property in 1985, which included mechanical systems, kitchen remodel, roof repair, a roof deck or a rear deck, and front yard fencing. So at the previous meeting, we tabled this item because there were some questions and the project representative was not present, but that is not the case today. We do have the project representative present. I will go through the plan now to clarify some of the elements that we had questions about last time. So to remind you, and let me first also remind you this salient point about the location. This is an aerial view of 336. You saw it from the street view, and you can see in that street view that the rear of the structure is not particularly visible from the street. And one of the reasons for that, this is without the contours. The project location is here in the back portion of this, the L-shaped component of the building. And with the contours, you can see the amount of drop, these darker black contours from here to here, that's 10 feet. So across this site, you have nearly a 30-foot drop, certainly 25 feet of elevation change from the front of the site to the rear of the site. So this is the location where that proposed carport will be placed. To return back to the plan set, one of the questions that came up last meeting was how a 9-foot driveway access would work for this carport structure with maneuvering radius for cars backing in and out. And the existing, there is an existing garage. So this is the driveway, and this is the carport proposed location. There is an existing garage underneath the rear portion of the house right now, and the property owner does pull into this garage and is able to pull out, maneuver, and then be able to pull up the driveway. The proposal is to construct the carport with a little bit slow on the mouse action here, with no post at this corner location. So this is a glulam beam. The post is actually at the property line at the wall. So the carport will not actually restrict the maneuvering beyond what is currently the condition on site. And then the other detail that came up that was a question was how the structure was actually going to be attached to the building. So this is what would be the roof deck slash top framing of carport. And this is the ledger detail that was provided, and this is something I've been informed was provided by a structural engineer as the recommended method to attach this kind of a structure to an existing wall plane. So those are the additional pieces of information that relate to some of the discussion that happened last month. And we do have the draftsperson and contractor for the project here. And with that, I will turn it over to you all for questions.
Okay. I'll start this off. So as I understand it, I guess the maneuvering has me concerned. So to park in the existing garage, you drive through the new carport. So in reality, maybe what we're approving or not approving is the deck above. so that whoever parks in the actual garage has clear path, or you move cars around. And is there any concern about that with the, with cars exiting onto the street, or?
No, because the conditions are not changing, and also really the vehicular access is not a consideration for this commission. You're only concerned about whether this addition, which is essentially a rear deck, will impact the historic status of the building, and if it will be substantially visible from the street. The finished materials, detail has not changed from the last meeting. The finished details of the framing and the railing finishes for the deck are all going to match the existing conditions on the house, and they will be painted to match the house.
Okay.
Yes, Mike Mirko, I just have one question. The glue lam beam that is in the rear of the carport, you said is going to stretch over the driveway?
Yes. So
So that will be seen.
it will. So that beam will run from this corner all the way to the property line here. So it's in order not to, so that beam will project, and to pull the street view back up. Oh, a little too far. So you will see, a bit of the edge of the rear deck here, and there will be a beam that would extend across this driveway.
Is the representative here?
Frank Horton, 28425 North Black Canyon Highway, Phoenix, Arizona.
So explain to me why that beam is set back there? Is it so the car can get into the port? Is that?
Yes, we're putting the support post for the glue lamp beam right next to the back property line, or the side property line, sorry. And so basically, that way, we're not changing any existing condition, because technically, it's already a carport, it's just not covered. But, so if we put that post next to the property line, we won't be changing the backup amount. And the carport's 28 feet wide instead of a standard 20 feet wide, so you have a lot of extra room to, and he already drives his big truck in there and backs it up, and I've been friends with the owner for like 30 years, and they're going to retire and move up here next year. That's why they sort of want to, they have a lot of grandkids, so they.
Is that beam somewhere around, well, you say it's at the edge of the property line, but what is it, the easement?
Or setback?
Well,
Setback, I guess is the word I'm,
Well, because it's just a support pole, there's no coverage, just the beam. We're doing no coverage, so coming to the property line shouldn't be an issue. Because there's no coverage, it's just one beam.
well, one post and one
Well,
beam.
one post and one beam, right. But that's.
And the post is how big? 4 by 6?
6 by 6.
6 by 6.
So with this new piece of information, and you all can certainly approve this, but because the post is going to be at the property line, it will not be conforming to the setback requirements, and so it would require a variance. So this board, and generally in a situation like this, if this was brought to Board of Adjustment for a variance, they would request that Preservation Commission review it and approve it with first. And, if this body gives an approval, then at that point, the applicant can go to Board of Adjustment for the variance that would be required for the support post to be at the property line instead of at the 7-foot side yard setback.
Rick Sprain, I just got a question. With the post being there, do they have to go to the neighbors? They may not want a 12-foot post sitting right next to their house.
As long
and
as the
yard.
post is on the inside the property line, it would be okay. I mean, it would be prudent to go to the neighbor, just to be neighborly. But if the variance was granted, as long as the post was on this property, then that would be allowed if the variance is granted for a 0 setback for that post.
Mike Merkel again. The beam is constructed of natural wood, maple, whatever. What's going to keep it from weathering?
Well, it will be painted to match all the other wood trim. And generally, the paint on the exterior trim is what keeps it from being weathering. I mean, it won't be any different than as far as weathering, it won't be any different than any of the other wood materials. And it's usually, it's just laminated pine together.
Well, I have a large
Okay.
glue lamp beam in my home.
Okay.
But it's inside. It's not on the exterior of the home. So that was just a question.
Robert Burford, yes, there are exterior grade glues and glue lamp beams, and that's what would be used out there. So that's not my concern at the moment. But I'd like for gentlemen to describe, you have some photos, actual photos of the existing building.
I do.
I'm not clear as to, or maybe the elevations would work better. I don't know. I'm not clear what you can see from the road or what extends in that 9-foot current space between the building and the property line. So above this beam, there is no structure there. The structure is all at the 9-foot back.
Right, flush with the existing house, 9 foot back. The only thing that you would be able to see looking down the driveway would be the beam and the post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the deck itself extends no further to the north than the existing north house.
And what is the new, it's a covered porch now. I've looked at it from the alleyway. So what is the roof doing at that new outside wall?
Well, the existing roof, the overhang will be cut off, and then the new roof will tie into the existing wall.
Shedding to the back of the property?
Yeah, and then the new roof will be, because it's basically flat, you won't be able to see it from the road or anywhere. It will be just torched down.
Because it's that 9 feet away. There's the new information that we had is the only thing that is in the view shed, perhaps we'll call it, is that column and beam that in order to get the span longer.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any other comments you'd like to make to the project?
No, I just thought that reason I didn't think it would be a big issue, other than the variance for the post, but is because you really can't see
Yeah.
hardly any of it from the street. You will be able to see the glue lamp beam, but it'll be painted the same color as the trim, so it really won't really stand out, I don't believe anyways, but
Yeah,
too much, but
yeah. Thank you.
that's it, yep.
Are there other comments from the,
Well, Mike King, I just have a question here. As we look at this picture, there's on the back of but right where the cursor is now, it looks like there's a door there, double door, goes out, a little small deck. So that will be the height of the
The new deck.
of the new, right, not the new deck, but the height of the garage, and you'll walk out onto the deck from there.
Yes.
So that whole space will be filled in at the same elevation.
And the small little deck right there will be torn off, yeah.
Right. So where's the roof then? The roof will be flat
Well,
because it's a deck.
yeah, the roof over the carport will be flat.
Flat, right, that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
But the
'cause-
roof, okay.
Then there's an additional roof here where they're going to remove this eave and tie into the top of this rear wall with a low-angle roof that's shedding to the back of the property.
So it will overlay the existing roof enough to get pitch
Right.
to the west.
It's a covered deck then?
Yes.
It's a covered deck, thank you. That's what I wanted.
Again, Mike Mirko, is the deck going to extend to the opposite wall under those two little windows?
Yes,
So it's going to go from corner,
yep, to
Out.
corner, yep,
Exactly.
yep.
Rick Brannigan, is that another existing deck covered on the back?
Yeah, that's that small deck, I think was added on, I think
In
they were-
80.
In the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to stay?
So this is the view.
That's the one coming off.
That's the one that's coming off. And then this is one on the rear of the building that's remaining.
Right.
You can see that has steps going down.
And those steps will have to be, the bottom of the steps will have to be reconfigured after with a new deck. Yeah, yeah.
Robert, go ahead.
are there going to be stairs coming off of that deck?
Well, they're going to come off that deck onto the existing deck, then come down the stairs, yeah.
So you can see the steps here. So the new deck fills this entire covered, it's a covered deck that you can drive underneath, carport. So ground level carport, level with the existing deck that's being removed is this new deck surface, and then there's a low slope roof that's pitched to the rear to protect the whole new element.
This is Robert Burford again. Yes, this is a challenging site, and I would agree with you that this is going to be minimally seen from the street and impinge upon the continuity of that historic street and its district. And if we're delving into this, other people will be looking at this project in the city. So I would remind us all that we are concerned with the view of it from the front. And
Mr. Jim McCarver, can I ask you a question?
Yes, go right ahead.
So the extension that goes of the beam that goes to the property line, is the covered deck going to extend to the property line also?
No. No, the covered deck does not go beyond this wall plane. And you can
So
see
the only
that.
thing you'll see from the street is that beam and the pole.
Yeah, and probably a little bit of, the edge of the framing associated with the deck here. Just based on, what the view is here, you can see if you projected this sidewall towards the rear, you would be able to see a little view of that. But the primary thing you'd see would be that glue lamp beam extending across the drive.
The beam is metal or wood?
It's wood.
Come on, Jim.
Which will be
So it'll be
painted.
like it'd be like a little arch that you would see from the street.
Well, it wouldn't be an arch. It would be a horizontal plane, a large, a beam that would cross the driveway.
Yeah, which would attach to the vertical post at the property line.
Right. The post would be here at the north property line.
So what happens if you don't extend and the beam stops? That doesn't extend to the property line. Is that structurally okay for the
So that would put the beam at this location here, which would then make it so that they would not be able to pull in and out because that post would be an obstruction into the maneuvering area.
I think, excuse me.
There are
sorry.
examples that you're aware of, Kat, that we've allowed variances, or the city has allowed variances of this type along the road there?
I don't know if there's been on this particular stretch of road a variance, but certainly variances for zero setback have been granted, around the city for conditions like this, particularly with restricted sites, where it's very tight and there isn't a lot of room for maneuvering. It's a busy street. There's some advantage to making sure that people aren't backing out onto the street.
Sure.
Again, that's handled by the Board of Adjustment. That's really not this commission's. I mean, it relates to the project overall, but the question you all are considering is it visibly going to detract from the historic home? Is it generally compatible in its design with the historic home? And is it, and particularly for the streetscape view, that's what we're considering here.
Robert Burford, and I would agree with all of that. We're responsible for having it meet the
Historic district
Characteristic
guidelines, yes.
of the side yard. And if this gentleman and the owner can get through other hurdles, which we are noting, but not really in our bailiwick, that I would say let us focus on whether this, and I'll have to say minimal encroachment into the view shed of Mount Vernon is appropriate in this preservation district or not. And I'll repeat that if all of the other hurdles can be jumped by the owner, then I'll show by my vote if we have a motion on this. So if we have any other concerns,
I
please.
did have a question. This was on your previous meeting and tabled and then brought back. And the point at that time, as well as this, will it be seen from the street? That was the biggest point.
Yep.
You guys have talked about other things more so than is it visual from the street. So I sort of want to back that to it. Is it our responsibility, and again, Bob, what you stated, I'm going to segue into it, simply make our decision. He then will go to asking for a variance and has to meet their requirements. So we're just one step in this process.
Right, so the sequence will be Preservation Commission basically votes their recommendation on the project. Then they would go to Board of Adjustment for variance, and they also still have to get through plan review.
Okay. Okay.
Well put, Mary Ann. Robert Burford again. Any other comments or concerns from anyone? Any other from the representative for the project?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Rick Sprain, I have a question for Kat. Will any of this deter or could it hinder against the National Register or any?
No.
Nothing on that will
No.
take it off?
It meets the guidelines for additions being minimally visible, not taller than the existing historic structure and located at the rear of the property. I think given the site conditions and, the limited side yard view, it wouldn't impact the National Register status.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if Michael King, I would like to make a motion that we decide on this.
Go right ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we approve HB 22-013 at 336 South Mount Vernon, which is approval for a covered carport with a covered deck above the carport in the rear of the property as presented.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mary Ann. We are voting on the motion to approve this project. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Aye.
Jim is an aye.
I would like to abstain.
Okay, let me summarize that. So we got, let's see, 4 in favor, or 5 in favor, 4 in favor, 1 abstaining, and 1 opposed?
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
Jim voted on this, too?
Jim voted aye.
Okay, 4 in favor. Got it.
Mr. Chairman, I could just pull where was not, was it Jim? Richard, okay, thank you. I thought somebody said Jim, so
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Kaylee, would you give me the tally, please, again?
So we have 4 in favor, 1 opposed, and 1 abstaining.
The motion carries. Thank you. Good luck in your process here.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And you may want to speak with either Tammy or George on the way out. They can direct you towards the variance process.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and I would also like to say the mayor is present at the meeting, stepped in a while before, so thank you. I'll go to our next order of business, which is HP 22-015. It's on 126 South Montezuma Street. It's in the Historic Preservation District Number 1, our Courthouse Plaza District. This is a request for approval for a new canvas, on an existing awning frame. So it is the canvas only that is being proposed to be renewed. And Ms. Moody will pass around the fabric sample and then give us a brief description, and then the representative of the owner will be here to comment.
I'm going to pass this because I just got it, so that you all can look at it. Okay, so as indicated, this is a request for recanvassing of an existing awning. I've got up on screen the street view of the existing awning, just as a point of reference. And we will return to this. I'm going to give you a couple of historic views of this property. First being its previous uses through the years. So looking at Sanborn maps, so this is pre-fire. I'm going to zoom in so you can read some, or I can read some of the text here. So this is a fairly narrow lot right in the middle of Whiskey Row. And in 1890, it was listed as dry goods. Pretty typical use. There's a lot of dry goods stores on Whiskey Row. And then in 1895, again, just general store type of use. And in 1901, listed as a tobacco and cigar shop. And just a point of note, the change of use here likely due to the rebuild associated with the fire. So between this period here, where you can see behind to the west, we have the what was known as Chinatown. Much of the Chinese housing and businesses were located behind Whiskey Row here. And then after the fire, that's all been cleared, and rebuild has occurred substantially in 1 year after the fire of 1900. And then its use as a store and then restaurant and bar continued all the way up through 1948. And then I've got an additional set of historic views of the building because it's changed quite a bit through time. So in this picture, it's this building here. And so I'll pull up this view again, just to remind you what the front facade looks like here. You'll notice a couple of changes through the years. The block building, the E block building, also had an additional parapet that's an angled parapet. And this building had a parapet extension that used to be a circular element here. And so in the historic photos, you're able to see that this is the E block building, and then this is the building. And you can see all the way back in 1903, which is when this photo's from, there were fabric awnings on this building. This is 1905. Again, a view from the other side. Frequently, early awnings were these retractable, collapsible awnings in early days. Oop. This is a pretty good close-up of this building with that additional parapet element. And here it is again. Again, just, consistent awning cover here. And then this is in 1940s at night, right here, where it was adjacent to the Bowl-Away bowling alley at the time.
Yeah.
So back to our current, our generally current day view. This, the awning that you see here, the black awning, was actually approved by this commission as the Devil's Pantry business. And they had printed graphics on this angled facade. The Grumpy Sicilian moved into this business, and then they came before the board to get approval after the fact, I believe, for the valance change in signage, and then this panel. This is an applied fabric panel to change the signage without changing the entire awning. And the request today is to place an angled awning, and can I get that? What I passed?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry for the delay. I didn't know I had a hard copy document coming. So the fabric you saw that was passed around is the primary color. So I'll put this up briefly, and then we'll cover the elements of the awning. So this is the primary color of the angled portion of the awning. This is the valance that's being proposed. And so the business name is being printed on the same surface, the angled portion, where the applied sign is currently. And then in the green, this is the signage that's associated with the valance facing the plaza. And then this is the valance that is facing south. Yeah. And so the frame is existing. It is just, oh, we have to switch back and forth here. The frame is existing, the canvas is just being replaced. The red on here, the Grumpy Sicilian signage printed on that, and then the two valances with the signage that I just showed on both sides. And we do have a representative here from the awning company, and with that, I'll turn it over to you all for questions.
Thank you so much. I'd like to take a moment, and I'm always amazed and impressed with Ms. Moody's presentations with the graphics and the history lessons that we're all getting. We're lucky to have this so that we can see the context of what we're doing instead of one individual item. So thank you again. Okay, Mary Ann.
I agree. I was quite impressed. Question on color. Is there any kind of code as to what, because what we're leaving is a black or gray kind of deal, moving to a red? Any discussion on what that awning and color would be? Any requirements?
The color requirements are very vague for this district. It says compatible with the district. And there are a variety of colors.
Yes.
And we've done this, the little tour up and down the street, but I'll give you, a little bit of a street view. So green and red is not uncommon, particularly for pizza places and Italian. The black is found throughout the district, but we have red in other locations. Down here in this block, we have a bright lime green.
Okay.
Over on Cortez, we have a very saturated purple, and there's a fair amount of variety within the district, but there's some green, some red. So there's red over here on this building.
In the corner.
Yep, on the corner. And then we have some grays with some oranges over here. And then again, that Life Waste Books. Just to give you a view of, we've got some browns and then greens and then this purple over here. So that's the awning tour of the Courthouse Plaza District.
Drive by.
Yeah, drive by, in case you didn't do it yourself. So the color is there are other reds in the district, and in the Italian restaurants, the reds and greens are one of the things that sort of is a branding for them.
Thank you.
Robert Burford here. I think it's very clear from your presentation that only the awning over the Grumpy Sicilian is being proposed. I just have a technical question of, will these two different awnings be sewn together, or how does that actually work, changing the material in the midstream there?
Good morning, everybody. Wolfgang Dietrich, 474 EC Street, owner of A-Shade Beyond, the awning company. Straight to your question, these are two separate awning frames that are literally held together with 1/4 through bolts. They look like one awning, but it's two separate awnings. So the way we would technically do that, for the recover, we will take the black awning, the Sicilian awning, down back to the shop, recondition the frame, recover the awning, and bring it back out on site within 2 days.
And so these
That's how
two
technical
materials
it
will
is.
just abut each
They will
other?
just abut. They will not be sewn together. So the Artful Eye can in any time request a new cover also. So we're completely independent, the two businesses. It just looks like they're mounted together.
Thanks, Wolfgang.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Other
And,
comments?
Can you go back to that other picture quick? That initial
This-
picture with
yeah.
the straight-on view?
Oh, or did you?
No, the straight-on view picture that you started with.
Oh, okay.
The original picture, yeah, that one there. We were also asked to recover those mattresses on that truck. We're going to make sure that we're going to bring that here, make sure they color coordinated.
I thought it was just landing for a stuntman to jump out of the palace or something.
We were asked about that earlier. You were talking to the owner. That truck parks there all the time, and he wants these mattresses recovered.
What color?
The same. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, that's,
Bit of humor.
it is, that's good, all the way around. Other comments, or Jim, if
So
you're out there?
I have a
listening?
question.
So Jim has a question.
Thank you, go
So
ahead.
the size of the awning will be the same, I'm assuming, no change in the size. And how's the letter to the fabric?
Was your question about the fabric?
The size of the thing is going to be the same, I'm assuming. And how is lettering applied to the fabric?
How's the lettering applied?
The lettering is a direct application of 3 layers of exterior latex paint. The way that is done, A and B sign will cut us stencils on their computer, and we will adhere the stencils to the fabric temporarily, fill in the voids, and then remove the stencil, and what's left will be the exact what you see there now in white. The Grumpy Sicilian pizza, and on the green, also in white, beer, salad, etc. What's on there? It's a latex paint application.
It's pretty weatherproof, but has a pretty long lifespan.
Yes, the latex, 30-year latex, 3-layer exterior latex paint is we use 30-year paint will outlast the fabric. The fabric usually has about 12 to 15 years of lifespan. The paint outlasts that. And yeah, in this case, it's not applicable, but usually what we do, we have the valances always separate on commercial buildings. So if the top sheet does not have anything on it, we can always change the valances quickly if the business changes. We just remove the lower part. In this case, we could remove the green part if he wants to change it from beer and pizza to hot dogs and hamburgers. So that's how that is done. All the awnings around the square, wherever it has any lettering on it, the valances, they're always removable and quickly changeable.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Then I would entertain a motion on this issue.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Please.
Rick Spring to approve HP 22-015 at 126 South Montezuma Street to approve the awning as requested.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, and Mike King, I second the motion, please.
Thank you. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Did we get an aye from Jim, just for the
Yes,
record?
we did.
Okay.
So we are unanimous. The motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for coming again, Wolfgang. Our next item of business is any sort of update of current affairs. Usually Ms. Moody has some comments.
Yes, I do. I have a couple of updates. The first one is because I'm sure you've all read about things in the paper regarding the redevelopment of this site here at City Hall and the adjacent city property. That project will likely be coming before this board in January or February. That's the predicted timeframe right now for the presentation of that project. I did meet with the architect last week. We went through the sort of very first draft designs, and he asked for my input in regards to improvements that could be made to make it more compatible with the district and also with, surrounding historic architectural context. He had a whole list of things I provided to him, and he was receptive to that redesign and is working with the developer and working on those redesigns. I will likely see them before they come before the board, but I would expect you all will be the first review board for that project, and you will see it early next year. So
Thank you.
put it on your radar screen.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yep.
We're having
Was there
trouble hearing you.
I can't.
Can you hear me?
No, well, you sound like you're underwater.
May I? Nope, not raining. Well, was there any discussion about not having a variance in the height of the structure?
Not at this point.
No go?
They would require a special use permit to go over 55 feet.
Okay.
And then my second announcement is that I have requested to be relieved of my historic preservation duties at the end of this calendar year. As you may or may not know, I think most of you know, I am the GIS coordinator for the city, and I took that job 19 years ago as a full-time, permanent position. And during the economic downturn, when Nancy Burgess retired, we were in a hiring freeze, and she announced her retirement, and the status at that time was we couldn't fill the position. And I had training in historic preservation through my master's degree. So I went to the community development director and said, I'd be willing to split my time and do this job if you all wanted me to do that, just so that it wouldn't sit vacant, until the hiring freeze was lifted. And so that is the beginning of my two-job role, and it's been 12 years of doing this. And there's a increasing demand in GIS, particularly in the public works, public works is one of them, but also public safety end of my duties with GIS. And it's becoming critical that I be able to devote myself full-time to doing my GIS coordinator job. So a month ago, I went to the city manager and all the involved players and said, I want to make this transition happen smoothly, and I intend to be here to cross-train whoever steps into the position. It's a 20-hour-a-week position. It always has been. It's been filled for the last 30 years by two people, myself for 12, and then Nancy Burgess for 18 years prior to that. So it's a long-standing run of really consistent, handling of this job. So I want to make sure that that is moved forward. So I will be here in the December meeting, and I will be in the background support for whoever fills the position. It is advertised currently for recruitment, and so I expect I may have an update as far as that process at the December meeting. So.
Well, thank you, but darn it. Well, I'm sure we'll move forward in some way with your guidance of the new person.
Yeah.
Or people, if it's a split job as well. So Thank you.
And you will be missed.
Oh, thank you very much.
Can I ask one other question? Can I ask Kat one other question?
Yes, you can.
So last meeting, you mentioned the city is going to add some additional historic districts in the future?
Well,
What-
I don't remember mentioning that, but there is always that possibility.
Okay.
And I certainly think this is part of the issue with me holding two jobs, and particularly when there's something related to public safety, I have to drop everything and deal with that problem because it's literally affects people's lives, life and death. So if somebody is doing the job that's all they're doing, I anticipate we might be able to move the program forward more quickly regarding new district formation, updates of existing districts, and some of the work that gets sidelined due to the fact that I have a split position.
Mary Ann?
Kat, timing couldn't be worse for you to decide to do your full-time job, and I understand that. And with that statement, that's the best for you. But we're in a vacancy that a new person coming on may not be able to do what you've done for umpteen years. Are you still going to be able to consult and be part of that till they find that person?
Yeah, for sure.
And if they don't find that person, you'll continue to try to get this through till they do?
Yes, I will be in support of historic preservation and whoever's going to fill the position. I think the hope is to have, the reason I, let them know with a 2.5 month lead time is the goal is to have it filled for January, but I am going to be backup and support and training and guidance for the position because it takes a long time to get your feet under you for something like this. So yes, that's part of the benefit of handling it this way is that I'm not, leaving the city. I'm still here. I'm still a resource.
And again, I think this board understands what you do for the city and what your position is. I was going to ask before you got into your swan song, 2 projects coming up that I think we're involved in. The mural is one, and the statue out front is a second. When does that discussion come in as to where it's going and what we're...
So the statue, the selected developer is interested in having the statue maintained on site. So they want to design it into and have a lease agreement for the statue to stay here at this site. The mural is, I have spoken with many, many museum directors down in Phoenix, and I have yet to receive any kind of interest in having the mural go down to a suitable museum in Phoenix. So likely it will be removed. Well, it'll first be documented as all of City Hall has to be photographed and fully documented prior to its demolition, just so we have that as a record of this is what was here before. And then the mural, we will, once it's photographed, at high quality documentation, then it will be removed from the wall. And that way, if it's damaged in its removal, we have the photographic documentation. If it's undamaged in its removal, we are going to try to store it. We're going to see if Charlotte Hall is willing to take it into their collection. And if not, then the city will end up storing it.
Okay.
But we don't have a suitable location to replace it. There's not a location at the new city hall that will work. So
Would there be a business or a company? Would the city put something like this up for a private, or it is definitely has to be in a museum or such? options?
I think that from the city manager's office, they're willing to see it go to a private entity, for sure. I mean, I think it could go, to a church or, who knows? But that we don't have a location for it in New City Hall. And so that's the stance to, not just simply demolish and without addressing it. Eric Moore?
Any interest in maybe the new developer incorporating into a lobby or something of the new hotel? If they're going to keep the statue, maybe they could have this like in the lobby or something on a wall.
They
Showed any
haven't
interest.
they haven't shown any interest in that.
You could have reported. I guess that's all I have to say.
Mr. Chairman, you brought something up in your dialogue there, Kat. I'll wait till you get your okay. Would be, well, in some of my experience, would this have to be the demolition of this structure and the accessory things? Does that have to be approved by SHPO, or is that just a documentation for us?
It's a documentation.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Doesn't need approval. Thank you.
Yeah, so we would mitigate
Right.
the demolition by photographing and documenting everything that's here as a snapshot in time.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. George?
Just a comment on historic preservation. It has been part of the planning division from the start in the city. We will do our best to meet the bar that Kat has set. It's a big challenge, but that's the goal we're going to have when we replace the position with someone else. We're going to try and meet this bar, because this has been a great deal of positive PR for preservation. The information that Kat puts out and the way that she presents the history of buildings, I think, has done a lot to educate people who are here or who are watching on TV, and we want to continue to do that.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I think we all are. And with that,
Could I have a date of the December meeting with the holiday?
Yep, let me get that for you. Let's see, so December 9th.
Thank you.
And I do have a couple of pending items. I don't know if they'll be ready or not, but I do expect we will have a December meeting, so I would plan on it for now. I'll try to let you know as early as possible, Marianne. I know you have to get a substitute for your radio show.
Well, that's not major, but it certainly helps.
okay, with that, I will adjourn this November 18th, 2022 meeting of the Prescott Preservation Commission. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.